So good afternoon to all of you. So our topic for today is all about break-even analysis. So when we talk about break-even analysis, it is the process of finding the break-even point that is called break-even analysis. So the knowledge of break-even point is useful to management when it decides whether to introduce new product lines, change sales prices on established products, or enter a new market areas. Break-even analysis indicates the amount of peso sales or unit sales that a company needs to cover its fixed costs. Furthermore, the break-even point is the volume of activity where the organization's revenues and expenses are equal. So at this amount of sales, the organization has no profit or loss. It breaks even. Okay, so you heard it right. Upon solving the break-even point, it is the point where there are no revenues or profit and there are no and which is equal to expenses. So therefore, wala kang profit kasi equal lang yung expenses mo, okay, as to the revenues. So this is important for you to know or for a certain company to know kailan sila dapat mag-increase ng production kasi if ever parating break even, so wala din silang profit. Therefore, if alam nila yung break even units nila, then they have to produce more units of products for them to create a profit. So we have methods in computing the break-even point. We have in CBP analysis, the contribution margin income statement is used in computing the break-even point. So we have sales, the selling price per unit times sales volume or the units produced. Then the variable cost per unit times sales volume, and the contribution margin could be computed. Okay, so when you are going to deduct sales as to the variable cost. So that's the contribution margin. Then if you're going to deduct the fixed costs, which are fixed in nature, then you will get your profit. Okay, so we have also here the contribution margin income statement is prepared for management use and the format facilitates CBP analysis. So the break-even point can be calculated using the following approaches. So we have equity method. So it shows a common profit equation used for CVP analysis. So when profit is set to zero, this can be used to compute for the break-even point. Okay, so according to this formula, sales is equal to variable cost, fixed cost, and profit. Okay? While if you are going to compute for the profit, it is equal to sales less variable cost less fixed cost. How about if you are going to try another approach? So this is called contribution approach. Break-even point is calculated by using the contribution margin. We all know that para makuha natin yung contribution margin, we need to deduct the sales as well as the variable cost. Therefore, ayan yung contribution margin natin. If we are going to get the contribution margin per unit, need natin yung selling price per unit natin at saka variable cost per unit natin. You are going to deduct the selling price as to the variable cost for you to get your contribution margin per unit. How about if you are going to get the ratio of the contribution margin? So for you to get the contribution margin ratio, you need your total contribution margin divided by your sales or the contribution margin per unit divided by the selling price per unit. Now, we have different formulas in solving your break-even point. So we have here, ayan. So break-even point for single product line. So we are just using single product line here, which is the very easier one kasi we have sales mix kasi. Or if you have many products, then the computation of the break-even point is complex. Okay, for this situation, we are just going to apply the single product line. So if you are going to get your BEP or break-even point in units, you need to divide your total fixed cost over the contribution margin per unit. If it is in peso, okay, same formula pa din, but your denominator will be contribution margin ratio. Okay, so later, we are going to solve a problem to apply this formulas. Okay. So these formulas can also be used in determining the desired sales. So if you are going to determine the desired sales to earn a target profit, this will be the formula. So the desired sales in units, okay, if you are getting how many units of sales, okay, units of products am I going to produce if I am targeting a certain profit like this. So the formula is total fixed cost plus target profit divided by the contribution margin per unit. Or if it is in peso, same formula pa din but the denominator is the ratio. How about the margin of safety? So margin of safety can be computed using the following formulas. So sales natin in units minus the break-even point in units. If you are going to get it in pesos, so sales in pesos naman ang gagamitin natin minus break-even point in peso. How about if it's in ratio? So margin of safety in pesos divided by sales in pesos or in units, MS in units divided by sales in units. I know it is very vague pa, okay? You cannot understand this formula until we will have this problem for exercise as an exercise. Okay, so we have here the illustration. Ayan. So the illustration, ABC company plans to market a new product. Based on its market studies, ABC estimates that it can sell 150 units in a year. The selling price is 5 peso. We need this one. The variable cost is 2 pesos. Fixed costs are estimated to be 120%. And assume that the company desires to earn a profit of 350 pesos. So lahat ng andito is magagamit natin figures for us to solve the problem. But before we dive into the break-even point in units and in pesos calculation, let us have first the selling price or the main or the essentials of the problem. So how much will be our selling price according to the problem? That's 5 pesos. Okay, the variable cost is 2 pesos. And our contribution margin, you have to deduct 5 peso for the selling price less the variable cost. That is your contribution margin. Therefore, our contribution margin is 3 pesos. What if we are going to have it as a ratio? So, selling price will be the 100% while two, the 2 pesos or the variable cost, to get the percentage of that, you need to divide 2 divided by the 5, which is the 100%, and that is, wait lang, so, nagkamali lang ang formula. Okay, so 2 divided by 5, so that's 40%. And then the contribution margin to get the percentage, 3 over 5, and that is 60%. So our contribution margin per unit is 3. Our contribution margin in ratio is 60%. So magagamit natin yan in computing the break-even point. Now, let's have this first requirement, break-even point in units. So we need our total fixed cost divided by our total contribution margin per unit since units ang hinahanap natin. So our total fixed cost here is 120 based on the problem given. And our contribution margin per unit is 3 pesos. Now, i-divide natin to siya to get the break-even point in units. Divide 3. So our break-even point in units is 40,000 pesos units, in which magbe-break even tayo at 40,000 per units, meaning wala tayong income, wala din tayong loss. So it only breaks even. Okay? So next, how about if we are going to turn it into peso? Same pa din, ang numerator natin is 120,000 while need natin ang contribution margin ratio, which is 0.60 or 60%. Okay, divide natin. 120 divided by 60. Therefore, the amount that it will break even is 200,000 pesos. How about if you're going to say to solve for the margin of safety in units? So, we need our sales in units. Ilan ba yung sales in units natin? It's 150,000 units. Okay. Magkano ba ang ating, tanggalin natin yung zero. Okay. So magkano ba ang break-even point in units natin? It's 40,000 units. Nakuha natin on the problem 1. So tanggalin natin yung dalawang zero kasi units yan. Okay, so our margin of safety therefore from the sales, i-less natin yung break-even point na wala tayong profit, wala tayong loss. Therefore, our safety stock or margin of safety is 110,000 units. So, medyo meron talaga tayong safety units, okay? Kasi we produce beyond the break-even point. How about in pesos? So, we need to have sales in units. So, since hindi naman binigay sa problem yung sales in units sales in pesos natin, okay, in pesos pala to. Let's change this. Okay, so since meron ilan ba yung units na na-produce or expected to be sold? It's 150,000. Binigay ba ang selling price? Ay lang natin siya times 5 pesos. Therefore, our sales in pesos is 750,000. Now, our break-even point in pesos, let's change this again. Nakuha na natin siya kanina, which is by how much? 200,000 pesos. Okay, therefore, our margin of safety in pesos is, minus na natin yung dalawa, that is 550,000 pesos. Now, we are on the last two problem or requirement, the desired sales. So, let's have first the desired sales in units. So, the desired sales in units is total fixed cost plus target profit over the contribution margin in units. Okay, kasi in units yan. Okay, check natin yung formula again. Ayun, unit. Okay. Okay, let's change this one. This is in unit, per unit. Okay, so fixed cost, add natin si fixed cost, which is 120,000 plus, magkano ba ang target profit? 350,000 pesos. Okay, so that's 470. So our contribution margin per unit is 3 pesos. That's not percent. Okay, 3 pesos. Naka siguro siya. Percent. Huwag natin i-percent ha. Ano natin in general? Number only. Okay, ayan. So, divide natin 470 divided by 3 pesos. Therefore, our desired sales in units. For us to have a profit of 350,000 pesos, we need to sell 156,667 units. Okay? So, how about in pesos? Same pa din. You need to add your fixed cost, which is 120,000, plus your desired profit, which is 350,000. That's 470 again, divided by your contribution margin per ratio. And our ratio is 60% as per problem. Okay, that is 60%. Now, divide natin 470 divided by 60%. Okay, therefore, our desired sales in peso, for us to have a 350 pesos profit is 783,333 pesos. So there you have it. Upon solving this problem, we will now know how to solve cost volume profit analysis. Okay, so thank you for listening and see you next meeting for our next video tutorial.